Do not trust no African. At this point, I do not know who need to hear this, but African nationals, do not trust them.
Black Americans, listen. Please stop referring to yourself as African American. That Pan-Africanism, that whole movement to unify Black Americans with Africans, listen, that's a hoax. They want a destiny swap with us. They want to take our culture and our dollars and take it back to Africa. You see what they did with the Essence Festival. If y'all keep feeding into this narrative that we are all the same, they are brothers and sisters, what's going to end up happening is when it comes time for reparation for what our ancestors went through, not theirs, the ones that they sold, not theirs, what's going to happen is they're going to send Black America's reparations over to Africa. And they are not our friends, they are not our allies, and I hope y'all can realize this and wake up.
Grand Rising Kings and Queens from Africa and across the ocean. Welcome back to my YouTube commentary, and today I come to speak to the heart, not to the ego, but to your heart, because our story has been twisted for so long. Black people's history has been twisted for so long that even have now sounds like suspicion. Why am I saying so? It's because when I open my comment section, when I open my email, I see Black American brothers, some of them writing something like, I ain't going to Africa, Africans don't like us, or we ain't the same. I see Africans writing like, we ain't the same. Don't beg them. I don't get angry. I don't get angry, but I get sad. I get sad because I understand the mistrust didn't come from nowhere. It was manufactured, okay? From the first ships that left the west coast of Africa to the propaganda pumped into modern media, a plan was set. And this plan was never let the African and African Americans see themselves as one people. Because if that ever happened, if the two have of the same soul reconnected, that means that the whole system they built on our separation would collapse. So before we begin this conversation, I want to say this thing. I want to say this to my Black Americans brothers. I want to say this to any Black people outside Africa. It is not your fault if you don't trust Africa. It's not your fault if you grew up thinking Africa was poor or chaotic. And it's not your fault if you are taught that Africans sold you and never looked back. Because the game was rigged. But the truth is divine. And it cannot stay hidden forever. Before I continue with my commentary, I want you to watch these clips and then tell me in the comment section what do you think. And for those who haven't subscribed, please subscribe. For those who haven't like and share, please share this video. For those who want to join my membership, please do that. And for those who are sending super thanks, I appreciate, and please continue sending. Let's watch these clips and then we come back to my commentary.
Since we're sending out reminders, this is just a friendly reminder that Black Americans are not African. We are not African American. And I'm not saying that as a way to try to disassociate ourselves from our lineage. Yes, we have lineage that comes from the coast of West Africa. Yes, that is a part of our lineage. But we are not African. We are not African American. I really just wish that we would drop that part of the title because it does not describe in full like really who and what we are. And it also confuses people about our Americanness, and it makes them feel like we are immigrants like the other people that come over here. We're not immigrants. I saw this TikTok from this guy from West Africa. He's like he's living in the United States, and he's like, if I get tired of this place, if I get tired of this country, I can just go home. You guys can't do that. You guys can't go home. Honey, we are home. America is our home. We were born and bred here. There is no other place. There is no other country. It's just here. And this is what I'm saying. We are not immigrants. So that's why just a friendly reminder.
Every African friend I had was a fake ass bitch. Either she wanted my man or she thought I wanted her man. The whole time she was in secret competition with me, and the secret animosity too is just crazy. And it's like, I thought I was the only one going through this with African girls. I'm so glad this is a topic now because yes, these girls is fake. They can't be trusted. They have no loyalty, and they're boy crazy. And you cannot be friends with nobody that's boy crazy. They was smiling in face, act like, oh yeah, all a kiki, haha, everything is all good. Whole time they talking mad shit about you to the next bitch and the next nigga. Whole time they gonna be talking about you to your man too. And they're so evil. It's like, oh, it's so weird to me. Like the identity crisis as well is crazy beyond me, through the roof. Like, it's like they want your whole life. They want to be you. They have no personality. It's so sad. You would think like that's your bestie, Westie. Like, oh my God, I'm gonna invite you to my wedding. Whole time it's your husband that they want. Like, you will know them as himself, and then throughout y'all friendship, you gonna start seeing her looking like you. Like, who is that? Who that is? Is that me?
Why is it that Black Americans hate Africans?
I don't know. Like, from what I've heard, I guess annoyance that they feel like Black Africans come to the country and they're given preferential treatment because there's this sort of belief that, you know, we work harder and we do this, and but therefore we're like the good model minority.
Yeah.
Which in turn makes them look bad.
Yeah.
And that even though, I mean, the FDA and the ADOS lot, they say that they can distinguish who's Black American and who's African.
And I can't.
They say that there's like so many different, like, you know, you can easily distinguish and all that, which I think is a whole load of cap. There may be some truths to it. Like, at the end of the day, we know how white supremacy works, right?
Yeah.
And it does absolutely get off on causing division. That's how it's always been. And it's just unfortunate that people are actually buying into it, but they're mad at the wrong people. I just feel like the energy is completely misdirected. And like, even if those differences are there, 'cause I'm going to give them the benefit of doubt and say that there's some element of truth to that. Who is responsible for that?
We need more honesty about the misinformation that's been put towards both of us, because when we've had this discussion multiple times, it's not often we get Black American honesty about the negative stereotypes they have. I say it, we say it, but they're like, no, we were open arms and welcoming. There was definitely negative stereotypes of immigrant Blacks perpetuated by Black Americans. So you can say that you're welcoming, but were you? And similarly, what was projected into into Africa and the Caribbean about Black Americans. Just be really honest about the propaganda that happened, and then we can get to honest dialogue.
In my 6 years of living in America, I've come to realize something. Like, white people, they treat African immigrants better than Black Americans. How Black Americans treat, African immigrants. I do not know what is the problem, because some of the Black Americans in America, like, they hate Africans. I don't know why they hate us. Like, I think their roots and their ancestors are of African origin, right? And that's why they are called African American. So I don't see the reason why, because I came to America, you should hate me, right? Why don't you just do your thing and I do my thing and we coexist harmoniously, right? So I've come to realize, like, some white people, like, they treat us better, they talk to us in a better way. But then when you talk to an African American, you hear, when you have a conversation, you hear there's something inside there, even if they're not telling you directly. You hear, or you can tell that there's some hatred within them, and I don't know why. Sometimes they say that we take their jobs. Sometimes they say a lot of things which are not true. And I'm like, this is your country. You're a citizen here. And if this is your country, what prevents you to get a better life? What prevents you to get that education, get that better job? If I come here in America, I go to school, I get an education, I become a citizen, I get a better job than you have, who is to blame? Who is to blame? Come on now. So I don't know why all this hatred, I don't know where it's coming from, but it's something that I've noticed, and I've realized that it's there. It's there, and it needs to end, because why should we be fighting? We look the same. We have the same origins, even if your origins just they rotate just back, but there shouldn't be hate. There should be love, okay? Because we're in this world to just coexist together, regardless of your race, regardless of your color, regardless of your religion, regardless of what you believe in, because we are all one race. We are all the human race, and we should coexist harmoniously. So stop that hate.
Do not trust no African. At this point, I do not know who need to hear this, but African nationals, do not trust them. I always giving African nationals the benefit of the doubt, and they always proving me wrong in one way, shape, or form. Why African nationals are here talking about they glad their ancestors sold slave? They glad their ancestor sold them by the ship. They're so proud that the ancestors sold the useless ones. What the fuck you on the internet talking about? If you arguing with FBA, talk about FBA bullshit. Why you telling people that? And you wanna see how much likes these pussy will get. You wanna see how much likes they get. And I'm sure it's other African liking those bullshit, cause there's no one from the Caribbean or the South America or the North America in their right mind, or Europe, that are in the Arabs who will get sold in their right mind to like those videos. So I know all those thousands of likes, I know it's African liking it. African. I'm not saying you won't have exception, but right now, I'm saying do not trust no African at all. They're willing to sell you out for a buck. They're willing to sell you out for $1. Not saying no other one don't sell you out, but trust me, someone on here glorifying what their ancestor did by selling slave. Selling someone to another race to control their own flesh and blood. Are you coming here in this modern time, knowing all the history, telling me you glad your ancestor do that? Yo, go suck on the mother. You are not different from FBA. You are the same thing as you are worse than FBA. You are 100 times worse than FBA. Shame on you. Shame on you for overreaching. Why are you talking about FBA and you overreaching like that? You're talking everybody else who were involved in the slave trade, which is over several dozen countries. So next time, all me have to say, learn from my experience. Me have experience with African nationals, and I'm telling you, do not trust them. They're materialistic to the max. They're more materialistic than you in a more wealthier country. That me I tell you. You see, African nationals, they're more materialistic than you, who is in a wealthier country than where they're coming from. So, for example, someone coming from a place that the chance of you making $1,000 is like 1 in a trillion, is the same, and you come from a place that the chance of you making $1,000 is probably 1 in 1,000. Yeah, they come here and materialistic more than you. When I say materialistic, they value material things more than you. They look at everything in dollars. They count everything in dollars. They put money over you. When you talk to them girls and all that, they always I wonder what you do, money and all that, money wise and all that. Do not trust no African, yo. And the reason why I'm making this video is because some pussy will come on the internet getting thousands of likes talking about they're glad their ancestors selling slave and glorifying it.
Real quick. Well, every time I go on live, I see y'all people, well, I click on live by accident, but every time I get into somebody's live, I see a whole bunch of black people, black Americans, arguing with a whole bunch of Africans. It's like that's the only thing I see, and y'all arguing about who's who and what's what and how we not African and how all of this other stuff. Listen to me, y'all. Let me put all of y'all in some game, just in case y'all don't know. And I won't talk about this stuff like that because I like to keep it lighthearted. But y'all not Africans, and we are not Americans. Those are made up terms to describe the native people who was on the land already. Africans don't even call themselves Africans. They call themselves by where the region that they're from, Ghanaians and, Nigerians and things of that nature. Americans are only called African Americans after reclassification, and they was using African to describe a pigment. And the people that are from Africa, first of all, Africa wasn't even called Africa. Do you know who Africanus is? Scipio Africanus. Look for him. You'll find out why they call that place Africa. they only using that to describe the pigment of the people who were on that land already. Everywhere you go around the world, there's people with dark skin pigment, melanated people. America wasn't even called America until Amerigo Vespucci. Do you know who that is, folks? If you don't, look it up. Let me put y'all on to something. I'm not just a hood nigga, I'm mad smart. If you don't know who Amerigo Vespucci is, look him up and you'll find out why this is called America. Before this was called America, there was already black people on this land, which is us, the natives, who've been reclassified a whole bunch of times. They called us Negro, they called us black, they called us African American, they called us everything under the book. They keep trying to reclassify us to make us think that we wasn't the natives on this land already. We was here when they got there, we gonna be here when they gone. And stop arguing with each other, because those people in Africa are the natives of Africa. That wasn't called Africa before. That was named after Scipio Africanus. And America wasn't called America. It was named after Amerigo Vespucci. You understand? Like, it was named by the conquerors, these European conquerors. Y'all get it together. Stop fighting each other over names. You are we are the natives of this earth. Everywhere you go on the planet, everywhere you go, there was a melanated pigment person there before it was conquered by a colonizer. So get it the fuck together, y'all. Good morning. I just came from the gym. Get it together. Also, real quick, before, if you like what I'm saying, like and follow for more. I'll go into more details. But also, imagine a group of people, they find a land, right? They find a way to get in contact with the people on the land, and they're asking them like, hey, how can I get a piece of this land? What do you guys call it? Like, where do you live? What is yours? What's that? And these people are like, no, I don't own this land. You can come here. This is the earth's land. This is everybody's land. I live here. I'm from the earth. Our people wasn't naming our land. We were just from here. We were everywhere. We didn't need to name it. We didn't need to name it and claim it and make it ours. That come from people who are lacking. They want to take something from everybody else. We didn't need to do that. We were already everywhere. We were already communicating with everybody. So we never needed to take anything and make it ours. That's why we were sharing with them when they got here. We weren't trying to make a claim for our shit. Like, yo, man, that shit gets so deep that it goes into the languages. Like, yo, I could go like and follow for more. I'll drop another one.
Welcome back. Now, how was the game rigged? Let's start with that. And let's rewind the timeline a little bit. When Europe decided to enslave African bodies, they knew they couldn't just use chains, but they needed a story that justified evil. Okay? So they told the world that Africa was cursed, the so-called curse of Ham. They told the church that blackness was punishment. They told kings that colonizing Africa was civilizing. And while they told those lies, they erased the truth. That Africa was the cradle of civilization, that kingdoms like Mali, Songhai, Benin, Kemet, and Kush, varsities, gold, astronomy, and philosophy long before Europe even knew what is soap. Even before Europe knew what is soap, already we had schools here. When slavery ended, the physical chains broke, but mental ones were reinforced. How? Like this. Colonial education replaced truth with fear or stereotypes. From Tarzan to CNN, they made Africa look like a place that no one would want to return to. Okay? They edited our brilliance out of textbooks and replaced it with poverty, Then they turned to Black Americans, they turned to African Americans, the descendants of the stolen, and said to them that you are not African anymore, that you are just black. You are disconnected, displaced, and dangerous. And so both sides were given different scripts. Africans were told that Black Americans are nothing without Europe. And Black Americans were told that Africans are nothing without America. So the master didn't have to to rule anymore because they separated children, and these children will police on each other. Okay? And that is the rigged game. You are born inside a battlefield called freedom, and you walk with ancestors who survived the whips, okay? Who survived laws, who survived redlining, police brutality, Every breath you take in America is resistance. So when somebody online just says, come back home to Africa, it can sound unrealistic, even offensive, because you are still fighting to survive where you are. And I get it. As Kenyan Beast, I get it. It is hard to dream of home when you are still bleeding. But I want you to know this. Africa never stopped calling your name. Even when governments betrayed us, even when colonial system told us to forget you, the ancestors never forgot. And to my African brothers and sisters, we were too colonized in ways we still don't understand, okay? They took our minerals, our spirituality, our language, and left us with flags and debts. So when we see our brothers from Africa, we sometimes look through lenses they gave us, lenses of envy or misunderstandings, okay? And that's also trauma. Colonial trauma make us defend the systems that hurt us. It's like two siblings separated at birth. One grows up in the city, the other grows up in the village. And both are told lies about the other. So when they finally meet, instead of hugging, they argue over who is real. And that's why we are healing from. That's what we are healing from. 400 years of psychological welfare. But healing begins when someone decides to stop blaming and start understanding. So what I beg you all to do, my Black Americans brothers and sisters and my African brothers and sisters, let's try to understand. Let's try to understand. And all this that happened, we have historical evidence. And I love having receipts. I love having receipts because history proves the game was intentional rigged. Receipt number 1 is about colonial schools. After the Berlin Conference of 1884, European powers divided Africa like cake, like bread. In the new schools, children were beaten for speaking their mother tongues. They were taught that Europe discovered Africa as if Africa wasn't already there. And they were taught that African Americans were spoiled slaves who forgot their roots. Receipt number 2, it was missionary narrative. Missionaries told Africans those who were taken were cast for rebellion. And meanwhile in America, preachers told enslaved Africans that obey your masters and Africa is cursed. So the same Bible was used to divide two sides of the same people. Receipt number 2 is about Hollywood. From the 1990s, or not 90s, from the 1930s to the 1930s to the 1990s, every major film about Africa showed diseases, showed hunger, and showed chaos. Even Disney joined with the Lion King, beautiful music, but no humans, as if Africans vanished. At the same time, Black Americans on screen were pimps, criminals, and maids. If you ask yourself, who funded those images? Who funded those films? The same studios owned by descendants of those who financed slavery are the one who funded those movies. Now, in America, schools, they start Black history with slavery. Nothing before 1619, nothing about Timbuktu libraries, nothing about Egypt, science, or Ethiopian kings. And by doing so, they subconsciously tell the Black child that you began in chains. Okay? Now, we have African politics post-independence. It has played role too on dividing this, because after independence, Western nations had picked African leaders who were friendly to their ideologies, friendly to their interests. They made sure Pan-African voices like Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, Kwame Nkrumah were silenced or they were assassinated, because those men preached unity with the diaspora, okay? And the one thing colonizers feared the most is that unity. Let me quote what Lumumba said before his death. Lumumba said, history will one day have its say. Africa will write its own history and it will be glorious. And that day is arriving. That day is now. We are writing now. Now, to my beloved Black American family, my beloved brothers and sisters across the ocean, I want to speak to the heartbeat that has carried you through centuries of storms. I want to speak to the soul that kept singing in chains, that kept praying through pain, that kept marching when the world mocked your hope. You are not disconnected from Africa. You are in the echo of Africa in foreign lands. Every invention, every rhythm, every civil rights victory that came through you was Africa remembering itself through you. So I'll say this, let's face the truth. I know that truth hurts, but America trained you to doubt your roots. And it told you that being African was a step backward. Personally, even Africans thought that being an American was a step forward. And they taught you being an African is a step backward. So it was a double sword rigged game. Okay? Now, when I hear you saying that I'm not African, I'm not American, I don't argue. I understand, because your definition of African came from their movies and not your memory. But I assure you, as a youth from Africa, as a youth from Kenya, as a youth from Nairobi, I assure you that the Africa they hid from you is not the one your spirit remembers. Africa they never show is the one with skyscrapers in Nairobi. The Africa they never show is the one with skyscrapers in Accra, fashion weeks in Lagos, booming tech hubs in Kigali, Rwanda. It is the Africa where youth speak code, art, and revolution in the same breath. It is the Africa that never died, but only waited. When you come home, you are not visiting ruins. When you come home, you are touching resurrection. Try to take Marcus Garvey, who said, "A people without knowledge of their past history, and origin and, culture is like a tree without roots." He wasn't just preaching pride, but he was warning the disconnection breeds dependence, And that's why they needed you to forget Africa, because a man who forgets his mother can be sold as stepmother as paradise. Do you hear that? A man who forgets his mother can be sold as stepmother as paradise. But the awakening has begun. Thousands of young are tracing their DNA. Thousands of Black Americans are booking flights, stepping on African soil and crying without knowing why they are crying. And those tears are spiritual memory. Your blood recognizing its ground. Now back to my African brothers and sisters. Back to my homeland. I have something for you. Okay? We must also look into the mirror as Africans. Sometimes we have mocked our brothers and sisters from abroad, calling them, akata, or mzungu wa rangi nyeusi, that's a Swahili word. Forgetting that these words were planted by colonial tongues. We measure accents instead of hearts. We forget they lost what we still take for granted. And this is the sound of our language, the name of our grandparents, and the smell of our villages. Instead of pride, let us show compassion, because if we were stolen and raised in a foreign cage, we too will forget the song of home. So let's stop gatekeeping African identity as if it were a club membership, okay? Africa is not a location. Africa is a lineage. So when a brother from Chicago says, "I want to reconnect," don't roll your eyes just smile and say, "Welcome home," okay? We must fix our side of the bridge. Our governments must make it easier for the diaspora to invest, to get residence, and to feel safe. Too many have come with hope and left with disappointments because, because of bureaucracy or exploitation, We can do better as Africans. When Ghana launched the Year of Return in 2019, it proved that unity is possible. Over 1 million visitors came from the diaspora, injecting billions into the economy, but more importantly, injecting love into our narrative, okay? And that movement shouldn't just stop in Ghana. Kenya, Nigeria, Tanzania, South Africa, we must all open our arms. Tell Karibu Nyumbani, because when our brothers return, they bring more than just money. They bring healing. Some people are asking, we are not coming, but we have a lot of Black Americans who have come, and we have testimonies of reconnection. For example, Tariq from Detroit to Ghana grew up hearing that Africa was dangerous in 2021, and he finally visited Accra. He said, "The first morning I saw kids walking to school in uniforms with smiles, no police sirens, no fear. And that's when I realized everything I was told was a lie." Now he runs a small real estate company helping African Americans relocate. We have a lot of Black Americans like Sister Naomi from Atlanta. He came to Kenya. And when he landed in Nairobi and the lady at immigration said, "Welcome home," she cried. Nobody ever told her welcome home. Now today, Naomi mentored Kenyan girls in digital marketing, and she said the hardest part was not leaving America. The hardest part, it was realizing Africa had been waiting all along. We have a lot of stories, okay? Now, the book of Isaiah 11:12 says this: He will raise a banner for the nations and gather the exiles of Israel. He will assemble the scattered people of Judah from the four quarters of the earth. So every return, every handshake, every partnership between Black Americans and Africans is that prophecy unfolding. Okay? Now, my brothers and sisters, unity is not just politics. Unity is prophecy. For example, when Moses led Israel out of bondage, he didn't recognize freedom immediately. Okay? They still carried the Egyptians in their minds, the idols and everything. And that's how many of us are, free but mentality colonized. We are coming to Africa but carrying American, thinking. And the God of the universe is shaking the system. Empires are crumbling, crunches are falling, and yet Africa youths are rising with faith and creativity. Black people worldwide are awakening spiritually. They are realizing that they don't need to fight with the fist. Okay? The Creator is fighting for them. When you read Exodus 14:14 says that the Lord will fight for you and you need only to be still. And that stillness isn't weakness, it's alignment. It is what we are seeing today, Black people being still while truth fights for them. When a Black child in New York starts learning Swahili, that is spiritual warfare. When an African farmer prays for his brothers in the diaspora, that is intercession. When a Black American woman invests in African land instead of Louis Vuitton right there, that is prophecy, because the ultimate revolution is reconnection, not revenge, not hate, but love armed with memory. I have to talk about the media because media is the new plantation. It doesn't use whips, but it uses images of poor Africans, deserts and everything, okay? They never show you about Nairobi Expressway, how we have good roads here. They never show you about cleanliness in Kigali, Accra nightlife, Lagos Tech, startups or Mombasa beach resorts. Instead, they zoom in on a crying child with flies on his face and tell the world, this is Africa. They never show you the $1 million Black entrepreneurs in Atlanta. They never show you the professor in Harlem or the engineers of Houston. Instead, they replay mugshots, riots, and celebrity scandals. Why? Because images create identity, and it tends to stick more in the brain. And identity directs destiny, okay? So if you believe that you come from nothing, you will expect nothing. If you believe your people are violent, you will fear your own reflection, And Hollywood learned this early. The 1980s, when Eddie Murphy tried to film Coming to America as a positive African story, studios laughed and they said, you know what? Nobody wants to see Africans as kings. But the film exploded worldwide because people were starving for dignity. Then decades later, Black Panther broke every box office record, proving again that when we imagine ourselves united, the world pay attention. Wakanda may be fiction, but the emotion it stirred was truth. And that's why the system panics whenever Black people start loving themselves again. Now, when you talk about all these things, we cannot cease to talk about money. Because unity without economics is emotion without engine. Black Americans spend over 1.7 trillion USD every year. Now, if only 10% of that's calculated with African businesses, we will fund our own universities, we will fund our own airlines and streaming networks overnight, On the other hand, Africa holds 40% of the world gold. Is it 40 or 60? 40% of the world gold, 30% of minerals, and the youngest workforce on the planet. So when you combine that with the diaspora capital and creativity, let me tell you, we become the largest Black economic bloc in human history. Imagine a marketplace called Afrolink, where products made in Ghana, designed in Atlanta, and marketed in Nairobi sell to the world. Imagine a global digital bank owned by Black people. No racist loan officers, no redlining. So the day we connect our economies, IMF report will shake because they build those systems assuming we'll never talk to each other. Okay? Even the music industries show the formula. Afrobeats plus hip hop plus Caribbean rhythms. It will be world dominations. Beyonce, Burna Boy, Thames and Kendrick Lamar, Vibes Cartel together are proof that when we blend our sounds, the planet listens. Okay, so unity is not just spiritual, but it is profitable too. And we have the real enemy. We need to identify the real enemy on this our struggle. The real enemy isn't the African who mispronounce your name. No. The real enemy is not Black American who doubts your homeland. It is the system that feeds both of you half-truths. It is the banks that keep Africa poor through loans. It is the prison pipeline that feeds on Black men in America. The enemy is the newsroom that earns clicks from the pain of Black people. The enemy is the educational system that never teaches who we were before slavery. This enemy has many faces, but one fear: Black consciousness. So when we reconnect, propaganda dies. When we share technology, dependency dies. When we pray together, despair dies. So our battle is not against flesh and blood. It's against ignorance, greed, and ego. And that war is already being won by truth tellers. That war is already being won by us creators. That war is already won by the youths who refuse to be programmed, Now, when you picture the 2025 Pan-African decades, Black American owning eco resort in Zanzibar, Africans owning film studios in Atlanta, students from Ghana and Detroit standing the same online or attending the same online, online university, students from Ghana and Detroit attending the same online universities built by our engineers, diaspora media networking, broadcasting from Nairobi to New York, telling our news, That is not fantasy. That's a blueprint that's going to happen one of these fine days. Okay? Our grandparents marched for equal rights. Our parents chased degrees for survival. Now it's our generations to turn to build global Black power rooted in love. We are the generation that speak English, French, Kiswahili, Yoruba, Spanish, Luya, and code. We can trade Bitcoin. We can build apps. We can design brands. We can quote scripture in one sentence. We are unstoppable. Come on. When we are united, we are fucking unstoppable. So the world is entering automation and AI, but human culture still rules hearts. Okay? And the richest culture on earth is ours. The rhythm of Africa and the wisdom of the diaspora are the twin engines of the new civilization. So to every Black American watching this, please hear me. You are not guests in Africa. You are homeowners who forgot the address. The soil misses your footsteps. The drums remember your heartbeats. When you step off that plane and the air hit your skin, that's not humidity. That is history hugging you. And to my African people, don't let politics perception. Treat every returnee, brother or sister, with honor. Teach them, protect them, partner with them, because they are mirrors showing us what resilience looks like after centuries in the storm, So if you choose love over suspicion, the curse breaks. The system rigged the game, but we are rewriting the code, okay? So that's all I have today on this video. Tell me what you think in the comment section. Until next episode, peace out.